Well, welcome. Again, I know you all, but I will give an intro since this is being recorded. So, of course, I am Melissa Jimenez. I am the owner and founder of Making Strides, which is a personal training business located here in Castle Rock. And my story kind of began when I had a cancer diagnosis that was related to my military background. So once I had that diagnosis of lung cancer, I lost a lung. My lifestyle was going to change, and I wanted to make sure that I lived a good quality of life. So I started going through all the training and the certifications to be a certified personal trainer. And then a few months later, I became a certified nutrition coach. So I basically started my company, my business, to help others improve their quality of life. Hence this webinar series. So every month we are doing something a little different. This one just happens to be focused on nutrition for all of us busy folks. And next month, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but next month is going to be all about low pressure fitness and hypopressives, the benefits of that, what that looks like. So if you're interested, that's going to be next month's webinar. With me, I have my dear friend, Abby. So I will let her introduce herself to y'all, but she is an amazing human and a dear friend. Go ahead,
Aw,
Abby.
thank you so much. No, I'm so excited to be here. So, my name is Abby McQueenie Panamonti. I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and certified personal trainer. I run a nutrition and fitness business called Coaching with Abby, and really my goal is to help women learn how to lift heavy weights and fuel their body to be strong and sculpted and really just achieve the body composition and physique that they're desiring. Um, and yeah, that's just quick overview. I don't know if you want me to share anything more, but happy to chime in when we get to my part too.
Yeah, that's great. All right, folks. So I am now going to start going through kind of what we are really kind of here about today. I'm going to talk a little bit about, that fitness side. So a lot of the things that I'm going to mention are going to be really broad, kind of overarching overview of nutrition as it relates to, fitness and working out and just an everyday kind of thing. And then Abby, of course, as being a dietitian, she can certainly go into a lot more depth as we kind of get into a lot of that stuff. But um, really, I think one of the big key takeaways here is that we're not looking for perfection. I know we talk about that all the time. Consistency is key. So as long as you're consistent on what you're doing, you're going to start seeing results, and you're gonna, have more energy. You're gonna train better, and kind of really avoid those afternoon crashes and etc. So that is what we're going to be doing today. All right. So energy drops. A lot of people think that their afternoon crashes might mean that they just need more willpower or maybe better discipline. But typically, it's going to be a lot more simple than that. Typically, it's going to happen when meals are skipped or they're too light. So just eating a salad probably isn't going to do it. Or there's a long gap between your eating times. So if you're going several hours and you're not eating, then your energy is going to drop because food is energy. And so when your body goes several hours without enough fuel, especially when we're talking about protein and fiber, your energy will drop, but that also means that your cravings tend to go up. So again, the goal today is not perfection, but trying to find a steady way to fuel your body throughout the entire day. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to go really fast through these. We want to make sure that we have plenty of time for kind of questions along the way. So the idea is to make nutrition simple. We look at a balanced plate, and that typically is going to include a protein source, some fiber-rich carbs, carbohydrates, and then some sort of fruit or vegetable. You can add healthy fats when that does make sense, but really the biggest win is building a meal that will keep you full and steady throughout the entire day. So, for example, instead of maybe having just coffee and a granola bar, maybe try eggs with toast and fruit, or maybe Greek yogurt with some berries and nuts. If you're looking at, your lunch and your dinner, chicken with rice or vegetables. So trying to incorporate a little bit of all of these at every meal. It doesn't have to be complicated, but this type of meal is going to give you that power to stay full and kind of fuel your body and your energy throughout the entire day. And it's not going to give you that quick spike and that crash that that most people typically experience when they're not eating those balanced diets. Okay. And then timing. So if you are training, if you are doing some structured exercise, you're working out, you're lifting a lot of weight, then timing of your food also matters. So it's a good idea typically to have a small snack before your workout, because that can certainly help. I know some people like to work out first thing in the morning and they don't want to have a full stomach of breakfast. Understandable, but having something will help to energize your body for that workout. So even if it's just, grabbing a banana on your way out the door or whatever. And then if you're training in the afternoon, it's always good to have that snack, especially if it's been a while since your last meal. We just don't need to be on a completely empty stomach because then you're just not going to have the energy to lift the weight that you should be lifting. Again, simple. So something like just fruit and yogurt, maybe toast with peanut butter, a protein shake with a banana can also work really well. So it just kind of depends on what works for you and what you like. But then after the workout, you want to try to eat a meal or a snack that has protein and carbs to really support the recovery and kind of refill that energy that you just expended during that workout. Do not overcomplicate this. Again, the goal is just to give your body what it needs so you can recover and you can keep moving well. It doesn't have to be very scientific. That's why you have folks like Abby who specialize in this to kind of give you a more scientific approach. But for every day, it should come pretty natural and easy to just grab and go. Those afternoon crashes, it's a real thing. And it typically has to do with your nutrition intake. So one of the easiest ways to prevent that afternoon slump is to make lunch more complete with that balanced plate. And then plan a snack before you're actually desperate. So if you don't plan, then typically you're just going to grab whatever is on the go. A lot of times it's fast food. Or if you have some maybe not so healthy snacks in the cabinet, you're going to grab that first, right? So pre-plan kind of what that snack looks like. And then that lunch with protein, fiber, a solid carb source that tends to carry you a lot farther throughout the day than something light or if you're doing mostly like snacking kind of foods. So try to get a meal in to help prevent and curb those afternoon crashes. So that smart afternoon snack, again, some of the same things, but Greek yogurt, berries. That's one of my favorites. It's easy. You can prepare those in the refrigerator, then just kind of grab and go. Um, Apple with some sort of nut butter, peanut butter, almond butter, um, veggies with hummus. It's another one of my favorites because again, super easy to prepare ahead of time for carrots and hummus. Um, and then maybe a protein bar. But the protein bars, make sure that we're looking at protein bars that have real ingredients, things that you can actually say and pronounce. But the whole point is not to snack constantly, but to snack strategically throughout the day so that your energy stays more even as the day progresses and goes on. Overeating. So typically, this is going to start earlier in the day. So when you skip breakfast or your lunch is too small or you ignore that afternoon crash and you're not feeling your body in the afternoon, then your body is going to push back later in the evening. And that is why it's important to kind of fix that earlier in the day to fuel your body and not be in this restrictive kind of diet. Um, that's when we start seeing a lot of the overeating happening late at night. You're doing a lot of unhealthy snacking because your body is starving for that nutrition and that fuel. So again, one really simple habit is to decide that afternoon snack. Plan your dinner before the day gets away from you. So know kind of what your plan is. And then just check yourself before dinner. Are you actually hungry or are you actually drained and maybe underfed? But asking, that question can really change everything for you by understanding whether or not it's truly because you're hungry or is it because you're drained and underfed. If you are actually hungry, great. That's kind of where you should be. You're hungry, you're going to eat. But is it because you're drained, your energy level is really low? It could be because you're underfed, which means you're not getting enough throughout the rest of the day. And that is when you can start actually making those changes and plan for that. So basically, you don't need to be perfect. You don't have to have a perfect diet to have better energy throughout the day. You basically just need a repeatable rhythm, right? So those balanced meals, the smart timing, a few kind of habits that'll help your body kind of stay fueled throughout the day instead of constantly running on empty. Because not only does that affect just your nutrition and your energy levels, but it's going to affect every aspect of your life as well, right? So we want to make sure that you have those energy levels up and that you are feeling healthy and fueled. So this week, things to focus on. One, balanced breakfast. Again, we don't have to do a full 7-day plan, but start small. So identify one balanced breakfast that you can have in the morning, one pre or post workout snack if you're exercising, and then an afternoon snack that's going to keep you steady throughout the rest of the day. So those small changes, as you do them consistently, it's going to matter a lot more than having some perfect plan because we're human and no one's perfect and people are going to deviate from any plan that you have. So start small and do things consistently and you're going to see some changes in there. So with that, I am going to stop sharing and then I'm going to let Abby kind of talk through kind of her viewpoint as well on nutrition, snack ideas, some things that work really well for her and her clients, and what she's seen over the decades of being a dietitian. So, Abby, I will pass it to you, my friend.
Perfect. Okay. All right. And as I go through this, I mean, I don't know if, I think there's two women on here, but if you guys have questions, you're afraid you're gonna forget your questions or whatever, you guys can drop them in the chat and we can go over those at the end and or just have open Q&A at the end. I am going to actually drop in the chat a link to my coaching guide. So I have a grocery guide and a meal guide. And if y'all download those, now you can kind of use that as we go through this. But the big thing, I mean, definitely piggybacking a lot of what Melissa just said. Nutrition doesn't need to be complicated. We don't need to be perfect. We're really focusing on things like consistency, simplicity, getting away from that like perfectionist mentality, the extreme mentality. For a lot of the people that I see, a lot of the women, they come to me and they're saying, "Hey, I'm working out, I'm eating clean, but still not seeing results. Like, why?" And so the things that we'll chat about today is like a lot of these people have created too many rules. There's a lot of conflicting information online. And again, they just really think that if they don't do it perfectly, then they're not going to do it at all. So it's kind of like that all or none mentality. So as a dietitian nutritionist, I really try and help women simplify this so we can actually see results without overthinking food. So the info that I'm going to cover right now is kind of based off of, some of the things that Melissa had said that you guys were interested in. So kind of looking at the basics and what actually matters, we're going to just kind of walk through macros. So if you guys downloaded my guides, obviously this is on recording as well, for the audience, the grocery guide is a really good, I call it my cheat sheet. So that will show you, I mean, that's laid out according to essentially our macros. So you're going to see different protein options, carb options, fat options, and then you'll see like your fruits and vegetables. But I want to break down like what are macros kind of in a non-intimidating way and really just like why do these help us? So when we think about things like protein, right? A lot of people are like, well, it helps with muscle. And absolutely that is the case. When we think about what it takes to build muscle, it's very similar to what it takes to build bone. So if we're getting enough protein and we're doing the strength training, that is what's going to help us as we age, with maintaining lean muscle mass and supporting that bone density. Protein actually costs a little bit more energy in your body to digest, so it does help with things like our metabolism. So we can actually get our body to work for us by eating a little bit more protein in the diet. It helps with our fullness, our satiety. So as Melissa suggested, that's going to help us to reduce those cravings, that hunger that sometimes people get later in the day. Protein's also great for our immune system, our thyroid function, and again, really just kind of keeping us balanced through the day. No, carbs get all of the hate, but carbs are definitely not the enemy. Carbs really are going to be a number one source of energy for us, especially if we are lifting, which I'm assuming that anybody that's on Melissa's, workshop here is lifting weights. So carbs are the energy source. Eating foods that contain carbohydrates, they're also going to give us things like fiber, which is really important for things like hormone, cholesterol regulation, digestive support. Carbohydrates are also essential for things like our brain, our thyroid conversion. And interestingly, I generally speak to females primarily, and females are different than guys in that we've got hormonal fluctuations. Carbohydrates are really important for things like ovulation. So it's definitely not something that we want to be avoiding. And then the last macronutrient would be our fats. Eating fat doesn't make us fat. Eating too much of anything is what's going to drive weight gain. But fats are going to be important for things like our hormones. It is more filling, so greater satiety, and of course they taste good. And if we eat foods that taste good, generally, again, we're going to be more satisfied. So that's really just the overview of macros. Now, kind of simple framework putting this together. So, kind of putting meals or snacks together. We really want to try and prioritize protein. So, get that protein with every meal, right? We talked about the importance of how that's going to keep us more satiated, help with our metabolism, again, help with that stable energy level. So, protein at every meal. We don't want to fear carbs, so we do want to focus on the type of carbs that we're consuming. Things like fruits and vegetables are going to be, great sources of fiber, so it's going to help us better manage blood sugar. Starchy carbohydrates are going to be based on someone's activity level. So, like Melissa said, we want to try and bookend those around our workouts. And interestingly, um, have a little bit of carbs at dinner time because that can actually help to promote sleep. So, a lot of women come to me, they come from a history of chronic dieting, chronic underfueling, struggling with sleep. We add some carbs at dinner, and within 1 to 2 weeks, they're sleeping way better. And then my big, I hate to call it a rule, but my big guideline with carbs is just don't eat carbs naked. And what that means is just don't have a plate of plain old carbs. Like, don't just have a plate of rice, have that with some chicken and broccoli, right? So you're pairing it with your protein and your fiber source. So again, that's going to help us with better gas mileage through the day. And then healthy fats, add those for that staying power, so longer lasting energy. So, my acronym that I really encourage clients to think about with meals and snacks is PFF. So, protein, fat, fiber. That's how we ideally want to build our plate. And if y'all download that meal guide, that's going to put together some sample meal ideas for you guys. So, if we think about that PFF guideline, an example would be chicken. So, chicken is our protein source, and a lean protein source, right? So, not a lot of fat with your chicken. Let's say we do some roasted veggies. So that would be a fiber source. So that's, obviously veggie. And then we want to add maybe some guacamole or avocado, healthy fat source. And then, hey, we are doing a workout later today. We want to add a little quinoa. So a little bit more carbs for someone who's more active. So that's kind of the plate method. And then the other piece that we want to chat through was people wanted to know how to like read food labels and what to look for on food labels. And I don't know, it's kind of like the Wild West out there, I feel like, with all the different things that we see online. And to be honest, it can be a lot of like fear mongering and like just stressing about stuff. And so we want to think about how to do this without like stressing and obsessing. So we want to keep it pretty practical and focus mainly on things like how much protein is in our product, what is the actual serving size that they recommend. Now keep in mind it is a guideline. It is not like you have to eat this, right? We can obviously have more or we could have less depending on what our goals are. How much added sugar is in the product. So again, we want to use that in context, but not from like a fear standpoint. And then really look at our ingredient list and focus on things that are primarily whole, unprocessed foods, right? Is it, um, you know, even the thing that I've heard in the past is like, can you pronounce all the ingredients? It's like, well, sometimes there's good ingredients, you just don't know how to pronounce them. So that's not always the best recommendation. But again, we just generally want to look for primarily whole foods. Okay. Um, and then so what not to stress about? Like the clean buzzwords, right, that you see out there. Um, I'm just trying to think of some of the things that you see. Like, I mean, even like the paleo, the keto, we'll kind of talk through some of that stuff. And really just trying to avoid like that fear-based marketing and really focus more on like, what is it that my body needs? And is this food going to help support me with that? I will say there's a lot of products on the market these days that are like healthified. Basically, like they're taking these foods and they're trying to, make them healthier. So, for example, there's like protein chips on the market. And I mean, is that better than eating Doritos? To be honest, I'm not sure because I don't think that the protein chips taste great. And you're probably going to eat a lot more of them and not really be super satisfied. They also add a bunch of things in there, right, like different fibers and stuff like that, and they're really hard to digest. But just the protein piece, I think, is overdone, right? There's like protein cereals and protein oatmeals and all the things. And again, I think if we can just go back to like simple ingredients, like more whole foods, I think that that's going to help us more. Okay. Um, However, I will say the one quote that I like is if it fits your day and helps you hit your goals, it works. So at the end of the day, like if that bag of protein chips is going to, you know, maintain your energy and keep you more satiated than like eating nothing or eating a Snickers bar, then yeah, like that's probably a better option. And then, let me see how much more I've got. Okay, so kind of real life nutrition. So I titled this Busy Girl Edition. And I don't know if you've got guys on the call, but busy person edition, right? So some grab and go ideas. Again, the grocery and the meal guide are going to be super helpful for this. But the big thing is, again, we want to try and pair our foods, our meals, our snacks, right? So ideally, right, when I read these things off, you want to try and think about how can I potentially get a protein source with this? Because not all of these will have proteins. So, for example, the first one, again, these are like easy grab and go things like fruit or dried fruit, right? Pretty easy to like think about, okay, I can grab an apple, I can grab some, I'm like obsessed with like dried dates right now. So I can grab one of those things, but I want to try and pair that with a protein source, okay? With the dried fruit, it's so like easy. It's you could portable, right? You could stick it in your purse or your bag. You can bring it with you if you're traveling on an airplane, etc. The biggest thing is just looking for dried fruit that doesn't have a bunch of added sugar. Um, like I mentioned, I'm obsessed with like figs, dates. Those are really good sources of fiber. They also are like sweet, so I feel like it's a fun way to end a meal. Things like veggies, again, obviously super portable. Look for some of those like finger foods, so things like cherry tomatoes, baby bell peppers, the little like English cucumbers. What's the other easy veggies? Carrots, right? So some of those options. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, jerky. So I'm like obsessed with Costco also. So things like the Chomps or the Kirkland brand are great jerkies. Another thing, if y'all haven't tried biltong, that's air dried beef. So it's kind of like a jerky concept. I actually prefer the texture of that, and it has more protein than jerky. Things like rice cakes, crackers, again, those are great portable snacks. Pair that rice cake right with some sort of protein. So maybe it's rice cake with some turkey slices, or rice cake with your Greek yogurt, or rice cake and peanut butter. Things like guac. So guac packets, hummus packets, peanut butter, almond butter packets. Again, those can be great for adding those to your fruits, your veggies, your rice cakes. Deli packs, nuts and seeds are great portable snacks. Big thing here is we do want to be mindful of portions because you could easily chow down on, 500 calories of like nuts or something like that. Um, Ready-made shakes, so just like literally shakes that are already made. I'm a huge fan of like the brand OWYN, so Own or Orgain. They sell those at like our Costco's, Targets, those types of places. Again, those are great to just have like stocked in your fridge. Bring them into your office, put them in your gym bag. Super easy. Obviously, you could have protein powder in a container or a bag, and again, you can kind of mix your own. Um, Nature's Bakery, they sell those at like Target and Walmart, but they make these fig bars. It's kind of like a fig Newton. Those are great portable carbs. I'm a huge fan of like the applesauce pouches or any other kind of fruit puree pouches. I also like Target's brand Good and Gather. They have date nut bars, so it's kind of like a knockoff like Lara bar. And then some of my favorite protein bars, Go Macros, The Perfect Bar, Aloha. And there's so many different bars on the market, so it's kind of important to just look at ingredients there. And so those would be good grab and goes. Now, if we're eating out or on the go, these would be some good options. So, on the menu, right, like try and look for protein first. So try and prioritize that protein, right? Our brain might be like, hey, I really want this, pasta dish. And that's not saying we can't have that, but can we potentially add some protein to the pasta dish? Or could we, choose something that's going to give us more protein? It's probably going to give us more staying power and we're going to feel better. Make sure we get some veggies. Biggest thing when we go out to eat is don't over restrict earlier in the day. So have a plan. Hey, whatever, it's my birthday or we're going out on a date. Know where you're generally going to go and then really try and plan your day with that in mind. So again, we shouldn't be restricting or saving our calories up. We want to properly like put the gas in the tank so that we show up to the restaurant not super hangry and we can make smarter decisions. And then some local places that I really like that are just good like good choices and also like pretty quick. Tokyo Joe's. You could do like a build a bowl there. So it's pretty straightforward. It's that whole PFF concept. Whole Foods, you could go in there and grab stuff off of the buffet line. You like pay by the pound or whatever, but very great options and super easy if like you're looking for something quick or you just need like lunch on the go. Running into Sprouts, grabbing something like a rotisserie chicken, a steamer bag of veggies, and then those packets of those envelopes of rice that you just microwave for 90 seconds. You just made a meal in 5 minutes. Rotisserie chicken, steamer veggies, rice in the microwave. 5 minute meal, and it fits that PFF. So, other things when we look at like kind of feeding a family and just quick, easy meal prep ideas, one thing I like is like batch cooking. So really just kind of thinking about what does your week look like? How can we kind of bulk cook so that we don't have to necessarily cook every single day? I'm a big fan of crock pot meals. It's great for any season, but especially when you look at like, summertime in Colorado, you don't want to turn on your oven a whole lot. Throwing stuff in the crock pot is super easy. My little motto there is like set it and forget it, right? Like you throw it in and you don't have to think about it for 6 hours, and then you've got your cooked protein source. So literally as we were speaking, like my husband had made up pork tenderloin from Costco, threw it in the crock pot overnight, added the seasonings, and so now we have shredded pork that will feed us for like the next couple of days. And then you can do different things with that protein. So shredded pork we can use, you could just make protein bowls, you could do tacos, you could put it on a salad, you could put it in a wrap, a sandwich, right? So many different ideas. Other things, grilling proteins, having just a bunch of, whatever you're cooking up some chicken or some chicken sausage, stuff like that, you can throw on the grill. Tacos are one of our favorites. I actually just made a post today about like 5 of my favorite easy meals. So tacos is definitely on there. And then what else? What else? Batch cooking, meal prepping, and then just having honestly, for us, we do a ton of like frozen fruits and vegetables. So it's just stashed in the freezer that doesn't go bad, right? And it's so easy to just pull out a bag of frozen veggies, cook it on the stovetop, microwave it, roast it in the oven. You can grill vegetables, right? Like just make it so easy that obviously you're going to actually take the steps to make the stuff. And then honestly, I know everybody wants like variety and they want like all the different things. What I would say is if like this is a fairly new thing for you, like trying to, eat balanced and healthy, I would say pick some repeatable meals. Again, if you look at like my post today, 5 easy repeatable meals that essentially I'll kind of recycle through the week. So I don't have to put as much thought into it. It's just super easy. And then, okay, I also saw the chat, so I feel like this is relevant right now. So, what are your thoughts on whey protein? I have the Own and Orgain shakes, but bars with whey protein. No, so whey protein's great if you tolerate dairy. Yeah, I think that whey is a good option. And then, okay, so next piece, and this, I don't know, this might just be more like conversation, but one of the things you had asked about was like the nutrition myths that are holding you back. I don't know. I feel like this could be like a 2 hour workshop in itself because I feel like everything is like, I don't know, a myth. And there's just a billion things, right, that people say online that's just not true. So I think some of the biggest things that I see, okay, so these are false, right? So carbs make you gain weight. That is false. What makes us gain weight is eating too much, eating in a surplus, okay? The opposite is we can lose weight eating carbohydrates, okay? All of my clients eat carbohydrates and we can see, weight loss of 5, 10, 15, 60, 80 pounds, right? So carbs aren't what makes us gain weight, okay? Sugar is somehow toxic or the devil. What I would say about that is that obviously we don't want sugar to be a, huge source of our diet. But eating a little bit of sugar is not going to kill us, right? It's big picture. It's really like anything else, right? Like working out for 1 hour a day is not going to make us healthy, right? Just that 1 hour. If that's all you do, and then you're sitting around the rest of the day, it's about big picture, right? Like, what does your entire lifestyle look like? Clean eating, just in general, like that term, I hate it. There's really no definition for the term clean. Uh, and it doesn't, so clean eating doesn't equal, in my opinion, better results because I have seen people who eat clean, right? All I eat is foods that are like paleo approved. You could absolutely eat an entire jar of almond butter. All that's in it is almonds, maybe some salt, that puts you into a surplus and you can absolutely gain weight. Okay. I've also seen people eat clean and they undereat because it's really hard to get all of your calories when all you're doing is eating wild caught salmon and some broccoli, right? So we want to look beyond just the quality and also look at the quantity that people are consuming. And again, we can like chat about all the other myths too. I thought that those were just kind of the big ones that stood out. And it kind of goes along with like the next piece, which is how to spot the red flags in diet trends. I mean, here's the thing, right? At the end of the day, in order to lose weight, we need to be in a deficit. So we need to be eating less than what we're expending. How you do that and how you achieve that is totally up to you and your preferences. So if you absolutely hate carbs, so if you're watching this and you're like, I cannot stand eating sweet potatoes and rice and pasta, like I hate all of those things, then maybe you go lower carb, right? But if you enjoy carbs, we don't need to cut carbs in order to see weight loss, okay? But red flags, cut this one thing out to lose weight. Again, there's no one single thing that we need to cut out. Just like there's no one single thing that's going to make us healthy, right? Like the superfood of the year or whatever. Like it's false, right? It's big picture. Again, do we need to cut carbs? Do we need to cut sugar? No, we need to look at overall energy expenditure and energy intake. Fasting, again, at the end of the day, it's about creating a deficit. So if you need to skip meals in order to do that, well, sure, like that's going to put you into a deficit. Is that required? No. Again, all of my clients eat 3+ meals per day. Keto. So again, do we need to do a no carb diet? Will it get us results? If you're in a deficit, it can, but we can also achieve results eating carbohydrates. Promises of fast results. Man, this is the culture and the world that we're in. And I mean, you can get fast results on some of these plans, but usually if we lose it fast, we gain it back faster. And we tend to not just gain that weight back, but we tend to actually gain more weight. So it's called body fat overshooting. And yes, that's when we kind of see these yo-yo diet trends. So again, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. The long game, right? And like the slow and steady approach is generally what's going to help people to lose the weight and also keep the weight off. Because in my opinion, we don't have a weight loss problem. It's a weight maintenance problem. And then the other thing, I mean, I've heard this too, is like X diet helps improves my metabolism or Ozempic improves my metabolism. That is false, okay? And so what improves our metabolism is actually eating enough food, so fueling our bodies, having good muscle mass, so weight training, And really, those are the biggest movers of our metabolism, as well as just your daily activity. So, what we do just day to day. So, those are the things that are going to impact your metabolism the most. And really, what you do day to day far exceeds what you're burning in a workout session, right? Like, that's like this. What you do in a day is like this. And then honestly, the last like red flag or the thing that we kind of want to think about is if a program is telling you like the quick fix and this and that, there's no mention of like calories or sustainability, then I would question the effectiveness of that. So again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And any person that tells you like, hey, my neighbor did this or that, or she cut carbs, or all she had to do was cut out her, cheesecake every night. At the end of the day, they just ate less calories. However you shake that out, you're just eating less. There's no magic food out there, unfortunately. I mean, and if there was, like, we could be making money, right? So again, we can chat more about that. And then honestly, okay, so I think the big things that I would say, kind of the takeaways, making sure we're getting protein at every meal, balancing our meals, again, piggybacking off of what Melissa gave you guys, and then really kind of thinking about those 1 to 2 go-to meals for busy days. Again, all of that stuff you guys can find in my grocery guide and my meal guide. Yeah, and then okay, so guide. And then the last thing I would say or invite you guys to do is I'm actually hosting a workshop tomorrow. And if you guys are on like Facebook, it's my full name on Instagram, it's at Abby McPabby. But I'm hosting a workshop tomorrow and it's geared all towards women that are in perimenopause and we're working hard but not getting results. We're going to chat through more detail all about metabolism and really kind of what the right approach should look like if we're trying to make changes to our body.